is 10, so we could just go to the third.
Announcements?
Yeah, any announcements?
Chat circle tomorrow at the Happy House, 8:30 till 10, and then Jennifer's going to make pataconis for us. Bring your favorite toppings.
Wow, that sounds fun. Lama Dorje rebooted his Power of Mantras retreat, so Mastery of Mantras. Instead of being at Finca Mia for $1,600 for a week, it's at Tierra S.
Yeah, I googled it.
I haven't been there yet, but the rooms look really nice. Simple glamping rooms.
It's in the Diamond Alley.
Vegetarian meals, 3 nights for $300. It's
Oh.
very different.
Yeah.
Shorter, it's a weekend, so if people are still working, it's easier. But anyway, it's on the chat. Yes, the 5th through the 8th of July. July 5th.
Was the other one canceled?
The other one was canceled.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. So, okay. All right.
Yeah, there was low enrollment, but the feedback was it was expensive and it was kind of long. You can't get a week off of work.
Yeah.
You're not going.
Oh, yeah, that seems.
Yeah, so this was like a long weekend and it's $100 a night. Meals included.
As good as any cruise ship. I'm in.
For details. Let's get a llama. You won't get a wool sweater.
Nobody knew.
Well, I have a question if anybody is planning to go to Paso Canoas tomorrow, or we are looking for a lift, and we are leaving.
Oh.
And if not, we will catch a bus or a stop. If someone is planning to drive, let us know.
Or even to Palma.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
Any stop.
Are we on, Bill? Are we on?
What on?
Oh, no. Welcome. I'm Lisa Virtue, for those who don't know me. Today's talk will be on non-judgment, which is a huge topic, and there's like a million ways you can approach it, so I've just chose some, and we'll see where it goes, and maybe it flows, so, we'll all be involved. But let's start with Pam is going to lead our meditation today.
I think so. I'm looking forward to listening about non-judgment. For your meditation, take a deep breath in. Release fully. Release into the ground. Release any negativities into the ground. And then settle through the parts of the body that are touching down your feet. Backs of your legs, your feet. Grow a nice long spine. Relax the shoulders away from the ears. Shake out any tension in the neck. Lift the crown of the head up towards the sky. Take another big breath in. Release the breath. And today we'll just do a quick body scan. Starting with your fingertips. I'm asking you to just notice the fingertips. Notice sensations, temperature, discomfort or comfort. Notice what's touching. And then the fingers. Notice all 10 fingers. front of the shoulder and the back of the shoulder. Sensing any temperature, discomfort. Just notice it. There's no need to change it. Maybe that area doesn't get a lot of attention. And so you're just giving it a little attention right now. Notice the sides of the body. The chest and the heart space. The upper back. Notice solar plexus and the belly. Maybe notice the breath. Maybe notice your breakfast. Notice the mid-back. Notice the hips and the area in front of the hips. And notice the lower back and the tail. Notice any spaciousness, weight, sense of gravity. Notice any anxiety, if you can put an emotional word to it. Notice the thighs, both thighs. Notice the knees, position, sensation. Notice the lower legs. Ankles, heels, tops of the feet, bottoms of the feet, toes. Notice all 10 toes. Coming back to the pelvis. Notice the spine. Rising up, notice the back of the neck, the back of the head, under the ears, and the ears. Sense your ears. Notice the jaw and the hinge of the jaw. And the chin. Notice the cheekbones. Behind the eyes. And the eyeballs. Notice the space between the eyes and down the nose. Notice tip of nose. Notice the mouth. Notice your scalp and the hairs on the scalp. Notice the crown of the head.
judgment. As I said, it's a huge topic that spend weeks exploring, and as I was putting my thoughts down, I'm like, I got many talks here. So we'll see. I have the good fortune of living next to Ruthie, so I was able to chat with her. She had a couple things that she wants me to read a prayer from Mark's book that will be to come at some point. And with the group that we have, we've gone over this many times. We've talked about non-judgment a lot. So I don't really want to just rehash that. It's like, let's explore a little bit more where that can go. But to set the baseline, when we think about the word judgment, it's usually a criticism of some kind. And, we like to distinguish between the words judgment and discernment, because people get caught up. We're in a dualistic world. You have to make choices and things. And so I feel using discernment is using a wisdom, a recognition of something that's skillful or something that's not skillful. Whereas a judgment is more of a reaction, an opinion, making assumptions without knowing the full story. And it feels to me like it's pretty separate from our inner being. But that's life, right? We're not completely enlightened at this point. And so we have to deal with human interactions. And so Ruthie wanted me to share with you the 3 markers for making decisions. And those are, is it skillful? So are we virtuously reaching our goal? Is it beneficial, not just for ourselves, but for everybody? And is it non-harmful? So, if you think about things that have been really challenging, it can be difficult to apply all of that. Especially if we're in an I'm right, you're wrong kind of situation, then how do you find your way to beneficial for everybody? Non-harmful has its degrees, of course. So those are some good words to reference, particularly when we're in a challenging decision or challenging interaction. Like, okay, can I be skillful in this? What tools do I have? What does Dharma talk taught me that I can apply here? And so in terms of what comes up for us, as we've said before, there's kind of only 3 things that we experience. Experience aversion, we do not like it; attraction, we do like it; or indifference, we don't care. Either way. And that's all the options that we have. And Buddhism seems to lead us towards finding an equanimity. So what I wrote is a non-reactive awareness. So instead of speaking about judgment, thinking about more of a reactivity. And so if we can choose not to be backing away from or suppressing or pushing away uncomfortable mental states, and conversely not be like clinging to the pleasurable states. If we can just witness them, recognize they're temporary as everything is temporary, and just be with it, allow that that's what's occurring in the moment, and just be like, okay, this is really uncomfortable. Instead of, I'm just going to respond, or not respond, but react and be like, nah, and have whatever exploding emotions. And with the pleasurable, what can happen is we really cling to the pleasurable because we don't want it to leave, but then we're clinging, which we know is not great either, and then that dissolves that skillful thing. It's not skillful anymore because we've clung to it. So it gets kind of tricky. But equanimity is that middle way. And in any moment, I see us, just endeavoring to do our best in a moment, and emotions, and they're a clue as to how we're feeling about something. And I see it as a clue as to what our thoughts are doing. So if you're feeling uncomfortable in a mental situation, it's a moment to investigate, like, what is my belief here? Really, like, what's underneath this? What is causing this trigger to be pressed? And it might seem obvious on the surface. Okay, well, this person did that, and but is there something deeper you can find? And sometimes that you can't find it, but sometimes if you dig, you can really surprise yourself with, wow, I've believed this my whole life, but is it really true? Or is it skillful now? Maybe it helped you in the past, but is it helping now? I'm feeling suffering now, so no. And so you can work with that, and that might take a while to work with that, especially if it's a lifelong pattern. But the awareness is the first thing. So it's moving things from unconscious into like, okay, I see that about myself. I'm just like, I've got all these things that I want to run into, but let me just come back here. So it says, when we become aware of an unskillful state, we can apply right effort to dealing with it effectively and wisely. I think that wisely is a key word. And this comes back to judgment. Again, it's all judgment, but when we find unskillful things in ourselves, then we start to criticize ourselves. And we're like, whatever story you want to make up in judgment on how bad you are, or unworthy you are, or unskillful you are, or whatever, or how you wronged so many people in the past with that, and how guilty you feel, and that, I think we do that all the time. I have found when something is pointed out to me, or I suddenly become aware of something I was doing that other people don't appreciate, that is not fun. To really see that in yourself and go, oh my God, I totally see it now, and I feel so horrible for what I caused unconsciously. But what we can do for ourselves with that is to apply compassion. And what Pam brought up last week that I love so much is the sweet little kitty. Sweet baby kitty. Or a sweet baby puppy, or whatever you like. Sweet baby puppy. And I like how you said it's like we see this bedraggled, soaking wet, miserable, flea-ridden kitten, and you just have compassion for it, and you want to help it feel better, and you want to apply love and care and clean it up and cuddle it, and that because the kitten itself isn't the external stuff, isn't the suffering it's been living with. And so if we can look at all of these things in ourselves that we find as these poor little kittens and treat them that same way. So it starts, and I'm sorry if this is like really meaty right away, but I'm just so into it. Like, oh yeah. I'm a Scorpio, we do that. If we can recognize that those unskillful or icky parts that we feel, it's normal, it's a natural part of life. If we can see it as the bedraggled kitten and just say, I know it's not who I am, it's the consequences of a belief that I've had. it's some dirt, it's some mud. And let me just love myself. First accept that part instead of like pushing it away. Just acknowledging like, okay, that exists, and then it's an expression of creation. Wow, I'm really feel myself going deep. We're told we're all part of a whole, that there is only one thing, one consciousness. But here we are, individuated as human beings, and we are perceiving in a sense of separation. But ultimately, we're the same. So I have a quote. Let me skip forward to my page I wasn't going to do, because that's where I've gone. It's from Eckhart Tolle. And he was talking about the relative versus the absolute truth. And what he says is that the sun rises and sets is true relatively. In absolute terms, it's false. Only from the perspective of an observer on or near the planet's surface does it rise or set. From far out in space, it only shines continuously. Yet even after realizing that it shines continuously, we can continue to speak of the sunrise and the sunset. We can still see its beauty. We can paint it. We can write poems about it, even though we know it is a relative truth versus an absolute truth. So I like to look at us as the sunrise and sunset. The absolute truth, okay, we're all one consciousness. But we can appreciate and love and value and find wonderful things in our human version, our relative self. It doesn't mean it's not worthwhile because it's not the truth. It's just a different aspect of truth. And so, not to dive too far into this new direction, but if we are the one consciousness here, I think we did it for a reason. We wanted to be here. And I think we wanted to explore what it was like to live as a human being, not recognizing our fullness, and to explore what that's like. What does that feel like? How do we get along? And for many of us, certainly the people listening here, we feel this seeking towards that, what we know is true in ourselves, that we are that unconditional love. And so what is that journey? What does that look like on the way to unconditional love? And it being about the journey, not about the goal, because we already are that. We came from that. We are, that never changes. But what's changing is the mud that's covering it. And how do we explore, realizing we've got some mud, realizing there's a whole litter of kittens to be loved and washed and cleaned and recognize their value. So I feel, to me, that sort of the underpinning of all judgments is, starting with ourselves. And so if we can apply the tools of, awareness, loving compassion, recognizing that having these things isn't bad or wrong or make us something awful, it's just what is in the moment, then the outer world, it starts to become easier in dealing with the outer world when we're practicing with the inner world. And I know for myself, for so long, the uncomfortable would just be like ignored or suppressed or doesn't exist or I don't want to deal with that. And then, I'm finding the ramifications of my body is like, I can't hold this shit anymore. Like, you got to deal with it. So that's my exploration right now, and why I'm kind of going this way is, I started doing lots of treatments, and a somatic therapy that somatic workshop. And we're going in, and it's like, just accept whatever you find as being perfectly okay. Like, zero judgment to what is. And just allow that it's this moment. It is exactly as this moment needs to be, and there's nothing, like, no labels for it. And that's really interesting. So thank you, Tam, for the meditation you did, which is bringing us into the body. And this is what I'm, starting to get into. And just witnessing, like, what do you notice in your body? And then just being with it. And trying to apply love and acceptance and approval to that. And that can be really hard. Like, oh, yeah, okay. And then you even witness your resistance to that. Like, okay, I don't want to approve of that. Okay, well, that's what that is in this moment. And that's okay. So it's this sort of this radical self-acceptance that certainly for me is, I can see it taking a lifetime of work, but the more you practice, then the more perhaps you can start to have less judgment within yourself, more accepting that all humans are experiencing these types of things. And so if I'm experiencing that and I'm dealing with this, what about that guy out there? This person who is really reactive and projecting that on me. Can I witness it and just say, poor sweet little kitten. Oh, you sweet little kitten, you are covered in mud and you're pissed off about it. I feel you. I've got lots of kittens in me. And so then that compassion just starts to arise as we're starting to recognize it's okay. And I've noticed in the spiritual journey, and I didn't even realize this for a long time, but that, enlightenment being this goal and a striving towards enlightenment. And I'm like, you know what? The striving also can have its shadow. There's a good and a not so good side. And so it was like, okay, there's a judgment on the self for not being enlightened. Okay, that's a big one. It can be a big one. It's like, why are you seeking? What are you searching for? And so, I'm still looking at that. It's like, okay, well, so maybe if I look at it that enlightenment is this sort of recognition of that one consciousness, recognition of an ideal skillfulness that apparently is possible in this lifetime. People have achieved it. So it's like, okay, that's doable. And so maybe just looking at it more as an idea of what a mudless kitten is, what a mudless self looks like. And so it's like, okay, well then I can aspire to that, but I don't have to make myself wrong or insufficient or whatever because I'm not that. This is it's just the direction I'm heading in this journey of self-discovery. Okay. I think this has been thick so far. How are you going? Okay, let me just see what else I had actually written to explore. Letting that settle because that takes me on lots of.
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
That'd be a good break.
It's a good break. Yeah.
Because I'm thinking as you talk, the other words that come into, so you say judgment and discernment, but perception comes in. You say failure and achieve and success, but skillful kind of comes in. And sometimes I feel like we just don't have the right vocabulary to express what even our true needs are.
Right.
And that kind of confuses me a little bit 2024. So it's like, I find it interesting that we have this set of words that aren't helpful always and can't define. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just throwing a problem out there. It's just where my mind was going.
Yeah. Is there anyone in particular you're thinking of?
Well, failure and success or achieve, like achieving enlightenment or achieving something, I mean, that's not the word I would choose. But I don't have a different word at this time. Attain, I mean, even in the literature that
allow?
I read, it's not. Maybe allow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because, what I'm contemplating is just this, the metaphor of being covered in mud.
Mm-hmm.
If that sort of just washes away, well, what's underneath? Well, okay, well, it was there the whole time. So we're not separate from it. So I feel like
Right.
The achieving is like it's something over there, and we've got to get there. Versus we just have to let go of the covering, the masks, to reveal what's already underneath. And we feel it's underneath, and that's part of that drive is like I want to have those those moments where we really feel it, and it's like, oh, I want that back. Okay, well, no, it's there.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of struggle with to incorporate all these concepts is equanimity. And then there's judgment, analysis, and all that. So equanimity to me is almost like the opposite. You're not feeling you're seeing what is. And
Yeah. Yes.
but then even when we do things like Mara, Draggle, they have a negative.
It's true. Yeah.
Right.
And the essence is that underneath the true self, the Buddha self, is good, right?
Uh-huh.
So even with our
Yes.
non-labeling judgment and equanimity, we're having, your achievement of something is better than the existing thing.
I was aware of that as I was doing this too. Yeah.
And how to put that together, right? Just accepting. And then it reminded me, I just did Tibet on the course, not a spiritual thing, for like 3 or 4 days. China, you needed to have a Tibetan guide. You just run around by yourself. But I actually got as much as talking with that woman because it just comes out how they had equanimity. For instance, outside the temple, people will be prostrated for And I was asking her what's going on because, the bruised, the battered, and all that. And she said, oh, they're trying to build karma because, maybe they're an alcoholic or they left their family or they've done something bad. And people will, just like a normal, in the United States, you have the hat out. People will put coins in so that they can do this as a full-time job. And I said, like, well, aren't you afraid that they'll just drink it or whatever? And she said, oh, that's okay. It may not be their karma different in this lifetime. And she said that a couple different times, like, it may not be at the right time change. And I was thinking how different that is from, like, guilt. Right? That I'm not here. And I'm trying, so I struggle a little bit with like acceptance. It just seemed like very loving, very compassionate. It wasn't like they suck. It's like, oh, that's where they are. Let's help them.
Yeah. I see it like there.
Right. It wasn't a judgment like, yeah, they don't judge it. Like this is what it is.
I feel it's like what they came to explore. So what that part of Source wanted to
Right.
To
It
see
wasn't
what that
all,
felt
I'm
like.
lucky, I'm better than them.
Right.
It wasn't like that at all. It was more, she would say, oh, yeah, they probably will. It's not in their karma to change these. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
That's different than, original sin and trying to fix everything.
Yeah.
And so I do hear because we want to.
Yeah. I think it's like what's inspired from within us. So what that that inner being is like, okay, I'm interested in shifting. So it's like, okay, I'm aware of this, and I'm sensing I'd like to explore something different now.
I'm not cracked now, but I'd like to explore this.
Exactly. Yeah. And so if you're, if the alcoholic doesn't want to change, then that's not inspired from within them to change, so they're going to keep exploring that aspect of what it's like to live as an alcoholic. But like those of us here, I feel come here because we feel something within us that's like, I'd like to learn some tools to start to have my life feel a little bit different and just explore that. So yeah, thank you, Sheila. Oh yeah.
I had two thoughts when we were talking. One, or you said it, about our language. Our language is, no matter which language, is very limited. Some languages are much deeper, and one are very shallow. But nobody, this generation of, we didn't learn to explore the depths where we can put words in what you said in our emotions. And now, this generation where everything is just with a top and a smiley face, doesn't count. So we're losing the ability even to ask our brain, our heart, so what word I could use to make the other one understand. If I'm sad and I'm pissed, if I'm understanding, if I'm not cutting you. So this was one, so this was deep because this is my passion languages, but then the other one I said, is this not interesting? So you're calling the mud, and you know what, we have to get rid of the mud. And now you're paying money to get covered for it. No, it is not in being bad here and being good here. But when you are a kid, you love the mud. You love run around covered from. But would we do it? Oh my goodness. And I was thinking, is not the mud sometimes a shelter? So, because we are not ready to release all this what is underneath, because I believe everything is at the right time, and when we force it, we buy 10 self-help books, and we go back to the library, and we're reading it, and it is proven, this doesn't help. This has to come from inside.
It does.
And a word what really makes me agitated is achievement. Because this is put on us, you have to achieve in the world. You know, when I'm living in a flow, I not even know where I'm really going. So I cannot tell you what my goal is right now. I'm just going for tomorrow, and this is fine enough for me. But be pushing for achieving, always being right. And then we can sit here, whew, now it is done, but it is never done. It's just an illusion.
Yeah.
That this is done.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this was just the thought that came to my mind.
Yeah, great. These are great. Yeah, these are all just in trying to explain things. It's like, yeah, mud and stuff is a label, a judgment.
I think Father George kind of addressed that here one
Did
time.
he?
Someone asked him a similar question, and his answer was yes, we live in this non-dual, or this dual place, where you are choosing good or bad, right or wrong, negative or positive. And yeah, you like train yourself toward the positive, and when you become enlightened, then it disappears. So like if that ever, you know what I mean? That's the moment where there finally is no judgment. But like
Yeah.
in the lifetime that we understand and we know, yes, just kind of train yourself one way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, I'll call your inner being, can offer you that guidance towards what does your inner self feel is more the direction it wants to go in, and that's using that guidance. So to me, that's the thing that's showing, when we're using mud or whatever, it's like, that's just the indicator going this way, maybe not this way, maybe this way, not this way, or this word, not that word, but that, to me, that when you can really connect, and usually in meditation with that inner self, I don't ever doubt what's coming from that. It always feels right. It feels amazing. My mind might go, no! but the inner part is like, yeah, And it's all the things. It's skillful. It's beneficial for everyone. It's non-harmful, you know. So. All right, how are we doing? All right, let me go to, I've got another quote and then another example. See better on the ground. So this quote is from a woman named Gertrude Kazor. I think she's from France, at any rate. It says, "Judgment is one of the primary signs of the anxious ego. By bringing awareness to judgment, we begin to expose the unconscious negative patterns that constrain us and which prevent us from expressing and embodying our unfettered souls." I love the word unfettered souls. So I think it's kind of what we've been talking about. And the example I have, so this is, you know, as I was knowing I was going to have to talk about this, I'm just allowing whatever's showing up. And I'm, you know, taking a break and I'm watching TV and I'm watching Queer Eye. You guys know the show Queer Eye? These 5 gay guys that help somebody who, you know, they help them with their home, their clothes, their hair, but they help them with their inner world as well. So they, you know, cooking, and they just help them transform. And so this episode, season 4, episode 2, was called Disabled But Not Really. And that's actually the name of the organization that the guy they're helping has. And he's in a wheelchair. And he's a black guy from the States. And so his story is that he lived in a neighborhood that, you know, the only role models he had were drug dealers. And it was, you know, a poor black neighborhood. And he says, I was a bad guy. You know, there was drug dealing, there was guns, there was everything. And he wasn't a great guy. And he was having an argument with his girlfriend, and there's some other people around, and relatives of people around. And he was starting to walk back to his car, and this guy who hadn't even been in the argument but was there shot him several times in the abdomen, and so now he can't walk. And, you know, he was saying that he didn't actually know. So for the first 2 years, he laid in bed in complete suffering, and his mother was doing everything for him. And then the show happened 7 years after, and in that time he's helped himself up. He's feeling like he's in a much better place. He has his own house or apartment, but his mother has to come over and do his laundry because the laundry's in the basement. You know, he can't reach the dishes. You know, it's not set up for him. So there's still struggle there. And so the show arranges for him to meet with the guy that shot him. And so they sit down for a conversation. And so he's like, you know, they're like, ask your question. He's like, why did you shoot me? You weren't even involved in it. And the guy says, well, you know, it was, I don't know, his cousin or something. And he was witnessing this argument, and he saw that this other guy had a gun, and he assumed that this guy had a gun as well. And he was moving in the direction of this guy. And he's like, I didn't want to get shot. You know, I wanted to protect my loved ones. And so I was going to, you know, shoot first. And what the wheelchair guy said was, you know, if I was in your shoes, I'd probably have done the same thing. And that blew away the guy who'd done the shooting. He was like, I did not expect that answer at all. And they both were like, I'm not feeling any like malice and negativity coming. Like neither one of them was in that meeting with a negative. And the shooter said, yeah, you know, I didn't have any malice when I shot you. Like it wasn't like he thought that he was an evil person. He was trying, you know, he was just protecting his loved ones in the way that their culture in that town were doing. And so, you know, of course they're both having this amazing moment, and compassion was arising for each other, and they forgave each other. And then they realized they wanted to lift each other up, and then they wanted to work together. So they're going to work together for the betterment of that community, so that they can help change what it was and help other people be better. So the fact that, someone got shot and their life completely changed, they're choosing to take that negative and turn it into a positive. They're choosing, looking at different perspectives to have a new understanding so compassion can come. With the forgiveness, the guy said, I felt like I was dragging something behind me, and now I have this freedom to move forward, with greater ease. So he was suffering. He chose a more skillful path to help himself. And then he said to the guy, thank you. He offered gratitude to the guy for the catalyzing situation in his life, because without that he would not have shifted for the positive. He's like, I am having such a better life now because you shot me, even though I suffered for 2 years before it clicked. So, then they can find commonality, and to me that shows that there's so many more possibilities and opportunities that are available for us than we can even conceive of in the moment of something. And that's why I'm, encouraging that witnessing of something arising and trying to find that equanimity, because how could this be serving you? What could this actually be offering you? This could be the best gift you've ever had in your own self-awareness. So this is what I wanted to ask, if anyone's had, your own examples of moments that, maybe in hindsight later you see how it was actually really beneficial for you when you were suffering through it at the time. Anybody? Maybe not so dramatic as that, but even small things. You see? Or sometimes it's even not getting something that you think you really want, and then later you're like, oh, thank God I didn't get that.
I remember my first job, because I always wanted to be a journalist. I got a first job as a reporter on a small paper, and it was my first job doing it, and I self-evaluated myself and said, well, I could have done some things better. And, I ran into some unfortunate situations, but I really wanted them to hire me back for the next summer. And the managing editor called me in and said, have you ever thought of a different line of work? And I was crushed.
That's a
I
slap.
was crushed. I went back to my room and I cried, and I couldn't get over this. And it took me until the next day when I said, well, he's wrong. I've been approve of that. And it was a crushing moment, and but I realized I wasn't going to take his word for it. But through hard work, you can redeem yourself. A few years later, I think it was actually maybe 20 some odd years later, I was at a different paper, and he was hired as my boss. And I said, that's a long time ago. I was sort of in a key position that he would have to have trust in. And so we were drinking in a group. I waited until everybody else had left, and I said, do you remember telling me? I just came out with it. And he drew a blank. He says, I would never say that. But I knew he had. And I think he probably, maybe he'd done it so many times. Didn't remember that one situation, but too often somebody renders judgment on us. Our first reaction is to take them seriously. Say, well, maybe I'm not good. And it's only by getting your bearings again you realize you can do something. Maybe they're wrong.
Yeah. believe only what you yourself test and judge to be true. Yeah, just taking their word for it. There's another quote I got. I love when Jeff brings all the quotes. So I'm like, what are the quotes? Do not judge yourself harshly. Without mercy for ourselves, we cannot love the world. I think that's really what I've been talking about, is finding that self-love and then letting that just expand in that compassionate awareness. Okay, so I think the last, two last things. One is another quote. And because I was thinking about, okay, we're going to talk about judgment, I bet someone's going to bring up war and all this, you know. I was thinking of you. I'm like, Sandy's going to bring up war. What do I say to that? And I was listening. Yeah.
Okay, that's intense.
Yeah. And so, for those of you who may not know, I do channeling and energy healing and yoga and things like that. And I was listening to another channel who's kind of famous. His name is Matt Kahn. Lots of people reference him. And he had many things to say, but this one really stuck with me. We are not here to defeat you. We are here to walk you home. And so that was, kind of answering this is like, he was talking in terms of wars and things, but also spirit coming, like, he was taking it to, the battle between good and evil type of stuff. And he's like, the negative will just expend its energy at some point. It will run out of energy, and the good will be there to walk it home. It's like, I'm not here to pick a battle. I know that you are a divine being, that you are, just like the rest of us, love underneath all of that, and you're suffering. And you're going to have your fit of suffering until you're tired, and then you'll be ready to come home. So, just offering that, not engaging in the battle, but just offering that loving compassion, compassionate awareness, and, doing what you can, where you can, in the way that you're inspired as a loving, compassionate person. So, myself, I'm like, I don't see how I, Lisa Virtue, in who I am and the life I lead and the things I choose, am going to stop the wars that are going on. But I can, when I think about it, I can think about the suffering that those people are having that causes them to feel that that's the action that they need to take to end their suffering. And how I can see it as not skillful. That's my interpretation. They think it's skillful. But there's harm coming. So from Buddhist terms, we go, okay, well, there's harm, so maybe not so skillful. But they're not, like you said, they're not at that place to be thinking that way at this point. So it's like, okay, I'm lovingly aware that you're having that challenge, and I'm not feeling inspired that there's something I can do about it at this time, so I'm just going to maybe in my own life fortify my own expressions of loving compassion and not adding to the problem. Yeah. And I mean, I feel like we have a collective consciousness, and so anything that I do within me that is, towards this, I'm hesitant to use the word now, towards the good place, adds to the collective consciousness of good. So I might not be physically doing something, but energetically, I'm contributing to the pot of well-being. Okay. Now.
I have a
Yeah.
example to share. It's not mine, but yesterday I talked to my friend who got inspired because I said to her, I'm not coming back to Canada. This is enough. I'm staying where I'm staying, no matter what happens. And she was ready to go back, so we worked together. And they have a place in Mexico. They did to stay 6 months. And then she said, you know what, I came up with a great idea. I sent my husband there and I'm staying in Mexico. And she said, they have to change it. I said, you know what? As you know Spanish, you can try, but don't get so. There was so much fighting and so much tears, and finally they did it. But now comes my point. They ripped, the contractors ripped this box out of the wall and damaged the wall again, so it had to be repaired and put it somewhere else. So now everything was color and nice and repaired, and she moves in the house in November, and life goes on, and she went to this general healer, but he helps her with her issues, and the lady said 2 days ago, you know what, today I don't talk about you, we don't work on you, I will work on the house. And she, judgmental, said, I don't come here to pay $100 and to work on my house, you know, what you want with my house. And the story goes so that she said the heart of your house is abused and hurt. So you live in an energetically space where it's all this ripping out, replacing and bang, all this hardcore. It doesn't go what you actually want to do. Art in the finest way, where you live peacefully. So, and she did the work, and she comes home, and she said, I was thinking about it, and my cats already felt different, and I felt different. And I said, what a story. I had to think about it, because this situation is everywhere, every day. And fast we think, or fast we think, you know, like there is sometimes no time, what we discussed here once, to think between. But what I want to say, the energy, what we put out, even to fight about this box from Canada down to Mexico, had an impact on the wall of a house what was not even ready. On this gloomy way. I know about quantum physics, and I know it works all about no borders, but how it affects her with the power box. And the lady calls it the heart of the house. So the heart is her. He said, what is the heart of my house?
What?
The power box.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, wow, this is such an amazing story.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly in the work I do, I recognize it's like your home, your car, all the things you interact with will start to reflect you. And so, you can like, oh, what challenge am I having with my car? And we all have car challenges here, but for the environment. But still, it's like, you can use that as a self-reflection, going, what's that pointing to within me? It's like all of this is like, what is it pointing to that I'm not looking at, or that needs love, that needs my own love. All right, last thing that Ruthie wanted me to do was read a quote from Mark's book. So it is chapter 2. So it's called 44 Prayers, which when he gets back, we're going to finally fix it up and get it printed. So we'll take pre-orders, I think, for that. So let's see. Chapter 2 is called The World I See Differently. This is the picture. Goes with the prayer by artist Choi Chen Lun, and she did the art based on the chapters. So
Was she the one that was here?
yes, she was. Yeah. Prayer 2. All that I love. So it's like praying to all that I love. My choices have created a confusing world. In the presence of those uncertainties, I seek only love. In love, I find truth. In truth, I find peace. In peace, I find my path. That path leads again to love. Through all love, I am inspired. For I once again feel your love in everything, for I have found my way. Amen. She liked that so much she wants me to print it out so she can read it before she goes to bed every night. Yeah. So are there any last thoughts or comments or things you're facing?
Lisa, to me, except eliminate or at least dampen the need to be dualistic. I don't need the judgment if I just accept what's there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think it's an interesting thing where we're accepting what's there, recognizing it's fine as it is, but then also, that inspirations to want to change things, like not to be stagnant, but to explore. So that being in the duality keeps bringing that up, I think. And so for me, it's this sort of, like waves. It's like, okay, I'm in this place of everything is good, but then something inspires me to move in this direction, or to go, I'm going to go this way, not that way. So it's an interesting dance.
My sister told me a story. My sister has received a lot of Buddhist teachings, and she's always finding herself in some sort of struggle or shaming herself a little bit about not behaving in a certain way. And it was she was in an airport traveling, and she's walking through the airport, and she's judging every human she sees, right? Maybe it's like, it's just reading into, she knows nothing, right? She's reading into, maybe one is like a business person on the phone in the suit that's talking really loudly, or maybe it's the way people are treating their children. And it's occupying her whole energy as she's walking through the airport. But then she observed herself doing it, right? So it seems to me like if you take one thing away, this whole, Buddhism and Dharma is about awareness and about watching yourself. And once she was aware that she was doing that, she chilled, and she started thinking of everyone she saw in terms of compassion. Right? It's like, oh wow, gosh, that person must really be suffering. They look very unhappy. Like, oh, I wonder what that. She was making things up still, but from a point of compassion, and it just changed her own energy level as she did that. And I thought I'd done it. Right? Just, she was sometimes you're traveling, you're a little irritated, you're in a hurry, you didn't sleep all the night before, right? So she was bringing all that, and so that might be. It definitely felt like judgment, and the possible, kind of antidote is the
I
right
like that,
word.
using your stories for good instead of evil.
Right.
Like
Just
towards
becoming aware that you're doing it.
Did you make her play that?
Yeah, she had plenty of time. It wasn't bad.
John, did
I
you?
was just going to make a point about, we talk a lot about language we use and acceptance instead of judgment and all the rest of it. The way most of us communicate, not all of us, but a lot of us, is online. And there's just no room online for words like acceptance. Or we very seldom perceive that people are really thinking about what they're writing and reacting right away. Right? And somebody reacts again right away. And sometimes the comments come 10 to a minute. And so maybe we're losing, if that's our role model, maybe we're losing the ability to find the language or to do what you're saying. And we have to consciously shift our quality of social media and just get out of that rut. And the other thing you never see on social media is somebody saying, you know what, I was wrong, you're right. I changed my mind. I don't think I've ever seen it.
It reminds me of Tana's talk where she was saying, just let the answer be, you're right. Yeah, well, maybe there is an opportunity to start using that kind of language, the equanimous language online, like someone's, or just not engaging, I suppose. Just don't partake and don't add to it, or offer a compassionate response.
I would label you as a weirdo in some quarters. Be a silent.
But I mean, the best example is just look at the bridge. You know, the bridge jack, the bang, bang, bang.
Oh, really?
Somebody's solution to, you know, they were talking about protesting, which we as guests in this country are not allowed to do, but they wanted to block traffic on the highway, and somebody suggested, why don't we just bake cookies and take them to municipality, you know?
Something simple like that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll get another result, you know,
Yeah.
instead of being controversial.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Attracting more flies with honey or something.
But this is such a fragile subject, this bridge. I would like to have a discussion about this bridge in a Buddhist way, because I know baking cookies avoids the confrontation. But these, I just said it to somebody where I was, I said, you know what? Watching the bridge every day, and even now I was in Urita on Wednesday, and it's so pouring, and I said to my friend, I have to go home, because really I don't make it home. And she said,
Yeah.
really? I said, yeah, maybe I have half an hour, and I really, this was already, I made it. I'm just saying, right? You always have, oh, I have to get home, I have to go home now. This really disrupt my lovely life. But I can live with this one. But I was thinking, what is when somebody is really sick, when somebody, you know, and sunset this morning, wow, you know, like no phone and no electricity and no bridge. I said, and you know what? I was sarcastic. I said, and this is it. And this is your last day. This is it. And I said, you know what? Maybe we have to be a little looking deeper. What is it? Because we are so spoiled with these things. What is when you are sick, have no electricity, no 911 in Africa? You know? Our circumstances are this high expectation, and this makes us not that I want to die, but sometimes this is what you said, we have to take a step back. And now I'm making no more appointments in Lubita. I said, you know, by 4:30 I have to be home. And then I'm good.
And there's always
Exactly. Except what is.
there's always Perezoso. You can go around the long way.
I know I did it once and I said, when is this?
There's always another way.
We've always had. We've
Is
always
this a safe into your life?
Exactly. We got used to it.
I don't live here,
But today when I drove over that bridge, I said, did they just lay like those round things down and put dirt over it?
Yes.
And it acts like a dam now.
Yeah, I never paid attention to it before. You know, but I'm glad I was like, whoa, that's a situation. What?
You know, in our loving kindness, you could offer the bridge situation for the. Why not? You can use a situation.
Not grown in some metal.
Yeah.
but before that,
Use that for the.
I didn't notice it until
It might
today.
shift. You might find that shift
They
in
just put
that.
dirt on top of
Yeah.
that? So people
All right. Are we good? Shall we move to loving kindness?
Oh yeah, yeah.
I need the dinger needs the ding. Ding.
We need to ding.
All right. Let's close our eyes. Thank you for being with me on this exploration today. All right, let's take some breaths and settle into our seats. Let's find that loving kindness, compassionate awareness, unconditional love, and direct that towards ourselves. So just repeat after me in your own mind. May I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, equanimity, calm, and peaceful. May I be happy. yourself a energetic hug. And turn your awareness towards somebody that you love, or something that you love, or a situation that you love. Something that really lights you up. And we offer to them, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease and equanimity, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. We turn our awareness now to someone that we have a less deep relationship with. Maybe someone we encounter in the street, or in a restaurant, or an acquaintance. And we offer to them, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease and equanimity, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Now we move to perhaps the situation with the bridge, or someone or something that is causing you discomfort. There may be a conflict. Offer that person or that situation, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease and equanimity, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Settle, and then turning towards all beings. May all beings everywhere, on this plane and all other planes, be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease and equanimity, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Steeping in that unconditional love, both absorbing and emanating. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And we'll finish with our benediction. And all together, go in peace, go making peace, living gently, loving mightily, and bowing to the mysteries. Thank you for coming.